Good morning, I am Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager, and this is another edition of Inside Cottonwood. This morning we are fortunate to have two wonderful guests, city employees. We have Kirsten Lennon, our Financial Services Director. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank
you for joining us. And we have David Hausaman. I know I was going to get that wrong as soon as I practiced. Sorry, David.
No, you're fine.
Our Interim Public Works Manager. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
One of the reasons we're here this morning is to talk about infrastructure. Now, some people find that a little boring, but in my office, we get lots of calls about infrastructure, and the City Council has been committed over the last several years to improving our infrastructure in our city. Our motto of inspiring a vibrant community ties directly back to the strategic plan, which the council adopted almost 2 years ago now, which put a lot of money where their mouth is as far as infrastructure. So I've asked Kirsten and David to come in and talk about what we've done over the last couple of years, and then what we're going to do the rest of this year, and as we start the new cycle again for next year, we'll talk about. So Kirsten, we'll start with you. Give me a little bit of the details about the money. How much money does City Council allot for infrastructure?
Well, when we enacted the city sales tax, the new half-cent in 2019, they actually dedicated a portion of that to go towards streets and doing infrastructure projects. So that was a good portion. We also, this current fiscal year, are spending $472,000 on sidewalks and $490,000 on our roads and streets. That was a carryover from the previous year. And then every other year we allot an amount of $750,000 towards pavement preservation. And so that would be in 2022, 2024, and 2026.
Wow, that's a significant number of dollars. And I think you're right. It's very important when we talk about the tax increase, and nobody likes to talk about, it wasn't just to give the city manager or city staff dollars. It was predetermined. Very small amount of that went into the what I call the general fund spending. It has specific purposes, including infrastructure. So let's start with that $472,000 for this year in sidewalks. Some of that came about, again, from the sales tax increase. Some of that came from the $100,000 that they dedicate every year to sidewalks. So one of City Council's goals with Inspiring a Vibrant Community is creating a connected community through walking and bicycles. And we're going to talk a lot about that here in just a minute, but the sidewalks are very important. So before we get into the projects that I'm going to have David talk about, it's also important to understand that not just taxpayers' dollars, but developers are also required to build sidewalks. And so a lot of our older neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. So now when a new development comes in, they're required to put in sidewalks. When a developer rebuilds a project that is valued at more than, I think it's $300,000, David,
correct,
they have to put in a sidewalk. So there's a lot of effort creating these new sidewalks for our community. So where are we at this year, David, with sidewalks? Where are we working on? Where have we recently finished? And what's our plans coming up?
Yes, absolutely. Every year we have a listing of sidewalk infill projects that we take to council. This year we actually just finished up the North Main sidewalk project, just right up from Bocce Restaurant. We did the addition from the bridge all the way to right where the Gray Fox development stopped. So we were able to get that in. We'll also be working on a sidewalk infill project on Willard Street, and that's going to be from Paula Street to Burt Street. There's a small section on 12th Street that we're getting ready to actually start on with city staff, and that'll be from the 12th Street apartments all the way to Cherry Street. One of the things that we're actually working on currently is getting a design engineer to design the sidewalks on First Street, and that'll be on the north side, just the north side of First Street. So,
well, that's exciting. Create a neighborhood right now where there's no place really to walk except along the street and in the traffic. So get those strollers and those kids up off the road.
Right, and if you've been on First Street, it's that's just the last section of First Street that needs to be done. So typically, the entire north side of First Street is done. So we're going to carry that on from Monte Tesoro up and complete that project.
So that'll create the opportunity. This year it sounded like there will be a design, and then hopefully next year we'll actually be able to get that installed, I think is our plan.
Correct.
And then one of the neat things about the sidewalk on Main Street there off of Bocce, off the other side of the bridge, is the sidewalk made a smaller road. So that road was pretty wide right there, and people coming down that hill had a tendency to go a little fast. So do you think it'll have an impact on slowing traffic down there?
Absolutely. When we narrowed that, through that right-of-way right there, and we ended up narrowing it down, it gives it a sense of a kind of a constraint when you're driving through there. I'm hoping people that, actually slow down coming around that turn. As you know, with the increased pedestrian traffic that we have, it definitely created a safer environment.
Yeah, so if you haven't been down there in a while, we have the one of our favorite trails, the jail trail is down there. We have a parking lot right there at the jail trail, and people park there and then cross that street right almost at a curve, just a little further down the street from the curve. But anything we can do to slow that traffic down will help significantly there. And then I also think we talked about additional sidewalks. We have the developer in Old Town Lofts, a new set of lofts going in across from Bocce's. Private development, very excited about it. If you get a chance, I guess I'm not supposed to plug private businesses, but the view from their top floor is going to be phenomenal. I got a chance to look at it the other day, and you can see down past the river, a great place in Old Town there. But they're having to install a sidewalk there along Yavapai Street. Again, making our community more walkable from First Street, from the people who live down in that area who might be walking up, or from the parking lot walking up to Main Street.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we have a lot of sidewalks going in. So let's talk about Main Street for a minute, and we'll get Kirsten back on to talk about the dollars involved in our streets, because there's a significant portion. But there's a lot of work going on in Main Street. What is all that about, David?
So the past couple of months, as most of you guys have noticed, we've done the road diet. And what we've done is we've taken a 2-lane collector road down to a 1-lane collector with a center turn lane. Now with that center turn lane, we've created essentially a safer road. We don't have as many turn movements as far as people passing each other. We've created a dedicated bike lane, which we didn't have before. We had sharrows on the road, which is, as you know, we just share the road with the bikers. So we have those dedicated bike lanes. We've created additional parking in Old Town with the pull-in parking. You'll also notice that our crosswalks in Old Town are the high visibility crosswalks, so we're actually bringing those, a little bit more vibrant for the drivers, where we can see where the crossing takes place with the pedestrians in Old Town.
Because you're actually supposed to stop when there are people in the crosswalks.
Absolutely.
Right, and so now this will make it clear where those crosswalks are. So I noticed that the curve's kind of tight up there by Colt Grill and the little grocery store there, little convenience store. I'm assuming that was on purpose?
Yes, that was on purpose. The idea behind that is to slow traffic down, to narrow the street section, especially around that curve and right where we have the back-end parking. So that is designed to actually slow vehicles down for people that are backing out of those spots onto Main Street. But yes, that was designed that way.
Definitely on purpose. The back-end traffic,
right.
to get back out of the parking spot. I notice, I've been wondering lately, because my office is down there, is where were all these people parking before? Those parking spots, Kirsten, you're also in that area, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cars parking there.
They're full all the time.
Right.
I also noticed that we decreased the number of crosswalks. So there was several crosswalks, but now we have main dedicated ones at the corners of the streets, which is nice to see, and to slow everyone down.
We like safety
Yes.
down there. We like our guests and our locals. A lot of our locals eat at those restaurants and visit downtown, or have to come down to City Hall for a variety of reasons. So it's all very good. So when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about outside of Old Town, because I get accused of only worrying about our visitors and our tourism, but that's not true. City Council put a lot of dollars into other neighborhoods and other streets. So when we get back, we're going to talk to David and Kirsten about all the other projects going on in the city of Cottonwood.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction. better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.org.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager. We have Kirsten Lennon, our Financial Services Director, and we have David Hausaman, our Interim Public Works Manager. Talking about infrastructure, which I think is a big deal for any city to make sure. It's one of our primary directives is to take care of infrastructure, to make sure people can get around, make sure our police and fire can get where they need to be. So Kirsten, when we left, we finished talking about some of the big projects in Old Town, the sidewalks, the road diet, the pavement preservation that went on down there. Let's now talk about what have we done. Is there anything that we've done over the last year or so that is pretty significant?
Well, recently we finished the first half of Mingus Avenue from Willard into 8th Street, and then we have in the budget to do the other half from 8th to Main Street. Right? Main Street.
Main Street.
The first half of the road was $1.5 million city funds, and then it was $850,000 of federal funds that were applied to finish that project. And then the second half of Mingus will be a $2 million project, and that's going to put sidewalks on both sides and have the 2-lane road with a turn lane. So.
Wow, that's roads are expensive, especially when you add sidewalks, because right now there aren't sidewalks in a lot of those areas.
Yes.
on Mingus. So also we're making it, I think, friendly for the transit buses. I think there's a pull-out or two down there. I know that...
which Circle K is putting in one of the pull-outs for the buses on the corner of Mingus and Main. So.
We're very appreciative of that. A little side note there, it's moving fast.
It is.
If it went from nothing to something overnight. Yeah. So thank you, Circle K, for improving that neighborhood there, the corner. So it sounds like Mingus is going to be well over almost $4 million by the time it's said and done.
Yes.
So David, what's the timeline? How long before we get Mingus finished? So, not to put any pressure on you.
Absolutely. So right now we're sitting right about 95% plants. Okay. We're kind of just putting those finishing touches on them. We're in coordination right now with APS, CenturyLink, Unisource Gas. Our plan is to actually start moving all the underground utilities. A lot of people don't, think that, we're not just rebuilding the roadway. We're actually, we have to move infrastructure all around. So we've got to relocate telephone poles and certain gas lines that may be in a drainage way that we're proposing. So we're proposing, to have those utility companies come through here in the next couple of months and do their relocates. Our plan is to actually have this advertised at the beginning of next year and start construction sometime in the summer.
That's awesome to have that wrapped up and have beautiful sidewalks there. We have a school that's just up the road there. We have, of course, our library. We have our transit hub that's nearby. It'd be great to have all of that walkable all the way from Main Street. Well, that's good news. So that's one of our main roads. We also just finished up some other projects. David, there was a chip seal or something applied to one of our neighborhoods?
Yes, we just did a chip seal project. Those who don't know what a chip seal is, it's basically a asphalt emulsion that goes on the ground. Chips are then spread on, wheel rolled on top of it, and then we actually coat the top of it to hold the chip in. It's coated with an emulsified asphalt. We did the neighborhood just by the cemetery, just north of Mingus Avenue, from about 11th Street to 15th Street. We do plan, like as Kirsten said, next year when we have our rotation for the $750,000 to carry that on just south of Mingus Avenue into those neighborhoods.
So another neighborhood getting taken care of. So
absolutely.
Not just our main streets, not just our tourist areas, but making sure that our roads and our neighborhoods last longer. I'm assuming that's one of the biggest reasons we do that. These roads are old and were put in a long time ago, so we put this chip seal on to help it make it lasts longer before we actually have to replace the whole thing.
Correct. And by doing something just as small as chip seal, we'll add, an additional 7 to 14 years on a roadway.
Wow.
So, by being able to stop the water from infiltrating into the subbase, by putting that protection over the top, really protects our roads. And again, 7 to 14 years is quite a ways out for that.
That's a long time, Kirsten.
Especially how much it costs, as we just said, to build a new road. So by putting the chip seal on, we're actually saving money.
Absolutely.
Right, because
Prolong
I just
the water.
heard $1 million a mile, is close to it, without sidewalks. I think is the number that about más o menos, more or less. And then, so how much does chip seal cost? How much cheaper is chip seal?
The section that we just did was about $225,000.
Okay, and that was a lot. It was a big neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was a very big
And
neighborhood.
that was the pavement preservation money for the 2020 budget, and so it was $750,000. But we did some other projects as well and bought a crack seal machine and a couple other things to help us continue to maintain those roads as well.
You said something, David, that I wanted to go back on, and you just hit on it again, Kirsten, and that is being smart about the few dollars we have. And one of the things you did do that council authorized was the purchase of a crack seal machine. And one of the reasons we do that is so that our staff can do it. You talked about the staff building a new sidewalk in a small section. That all saves taxpayers dollars, keeps our funds local again, and allows us to do more with fewer dollars. So the crack seal machine, I was just driving up the Mingus extension, and there's some decent sized cracks going across the road. So I'm assuming that's what that's going to be used for, is you put some kind of tar or something in there, and so water doesn't get down and destroy the whole road?
Yeah, so I mean that's exactly what a crack seal machine does. Expansion contraction with hot, cold, especially here in Cottonwood. We can get up to 3 digits and then down to 70 degrees at night.
Right.
So we definitely have a lot of expansion contraction, which creates those cracks in the roadways. Once it rains, if it ever does rain.
Hopefully it will.
What you do is you create water that goes down in the subbases, and that's basically how you get potholes. You did mention Mingus Avenue. It is on our plan to go ahead and crack seal that. Council did approve a crack seal machine, so our crews are crack sealing. The idea, again, like you said, is to save money. If we can go in beforehand and we're able to crack seal the roads, that just saves the city that money from having to hire a contractor out to do something like that.
Well, and it makes the roads last longer too.
Absolutely.
And if you've been on roads that are, I think it's called alligator cracking, where it's just all over the place, you want to prevent that from happening wherever possible. Well, we've got a lot of great things going on. Let's talk about a partnership with the county that we had, because we're a small community, limited dollars, and we're fortunate enough to work closely with the county. I know it's not today's subject, but stormwater protection, flood control district, they provide the city with significant dollars to help us do studies and plan and fix some of our public stormwater. Luckily, we haven't had too many problems this year because of the lack of rain. But Ogden Ranch Road, so that was a partnership that we had with the county, and it just opened up. How did that go, and how is that working out so far, David?
Yeah, it was great. I had the opportunity to work with the county when we built that. That was 100% funded by the county. What was before, if you remember Ogden Ranch Road, it was a dirt road. It was like a rumble strip.
Yes.
So what we ended up doing is we realigned the roadway coming up the hill. A lot of people, what happened with the hill and why was it realigned? Well, it was realigned for the sight distance coming onto the highway. And we took that road and basically went all the way to Camino Real, Old 279,
right,
as some would call it. Through there. There's actually a bike lane on that road as well. So that's it would be on the north side of the road.
Right.
One bike lane on the north side of the road. So, there was even, forethought to actually, create an atmosphere where we can still have bicyclists on that section of roadway.
Yeah, it's a great little road, and if you haven't been on a bike up on that road, the views are beautiful. I believe the National Forest is on I guess that'd be the south side of the road there, and the views are phenomenal. So now it'll be our road, so we'll have to maintain it now and take care of it. And of course, we were always responsible for law enforcement out there. So the other thing is it created another paved way around getting into Old Town, or not into Old Town, into the city of Cottonwood. We've had accidents on 260 before and really not had an easy way to get through town. So it really creates another way to get around when we're having bad traffic. When we get back, we'll finish up our last segment. I want to talk about a couple more projects. I also want to talk about if people want to volunteer and help us create a vibrant community. And so when we get back, we'll ask David and Kirsten a few more questions about upcoming projects and what we finished and how people can help volunteer in our community.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.org.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager. I have Kirsten Lennon, our Financial Services Director. We have David Hausaman, our Interim Public Works Manager. Thank you both for being here. So we've talked a lot about what we've already done, where the City Council has allotted some financial assurities for us, whether it be sidewalks or roads, whether it's Old Town or our neighborhoods. One of the other questions as City Manager I get a lot is how come I won't fix 89A? Especially there at 89 and 260, or the turn lane at 89 in Maine, 89A in Maine. David, explain either why we're not doing it or whose responsibility is. Can you talk to us for a minute about 89A?
Sure. Both. So we know we have two highways that run through our city: Highway 89A and then State Route 260. Those are both ADOT's road, Arizona Department of Transportation. And I do, as well as you, get a lot of those questions as to, who takes care of these, who's responsible for this. That is the state. City staff, we've been in conversations with fixing the ACFC on the roadway.
ACFC.
Asphaltic friction course is basically what it is, and basically, if you drive through on 89A and you kind of feel that rumbling,
not kind of.
Yeah.
You can feel it, at least in my car.
You kind of feel that rumble strip. That's the ACFC that's actually coming off.
Okay.
So we've been in conversation with ADOT trying to get on their priority list for that. Now, we do actually have some responsibility on the state highways. We actually have an IGA, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the state, and what we do is we do take care of the sidewalks. Okay. So when the state came through and they had, put in the sidewalks, they asked the city that if we're going to put in the sidewalks, that the city maintain them. So we actually do maintain the sidewalks and such on both Highway 260 and 89A within the city of Cottonwood.
Okay. What about sweeping it? Do they sweep it once a year? How often does the state come through to clean the street?
The state comes in about once every 3 months.
Okay.
Now, as part of that IGA, we do clean these state highways. Roughly right now, we're about once a month on sweeping that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So Kirsten, let's talk about the future. What do we have coming up? What kind of things do we have budgeted? What kind of money do we think we're going to be able to get coming up?
Well, as I said earlier, we do allocate $750,000 every other year for pavement preservation, and then $100,000 every year for sidewalks. And then the last 2 years in a row, the council has elected to put more money towards sidewalks from the half-cent sales tax increase, and then also some money directly into HERF, which is Highway User Revenue Fund, which is the fund that does streets and street improvements. We also have a CIP plan that we've created for the next 5 years, and that includes the pavement preservation and the sidewalks, but it's about a $7 million total 5-year plan. Wow. And it includes several streets getting redone, and like doing 6th Street, some work on 6th Street and a Pima Bridge and some other things that are on the plan for the future.
I'm glad you brought that up. Pima Bridge, I know, is getting ready to be bid by the states working on that. We have a partnership with them, and I'm glad you said that large $7 million figure. One of the things that the city, I think, is pretty good about is partnering with ADOT, with FEMA when possible, and helping secure extra dollars to make those projects go a little further. So I know 6th Street has some flooding issues. We hope to get some flood control money. Do you see anything being done with 6th Street over the next couple of years, David?
Yes, right. Currently we have a HERF exchange funds in order to hopefully mitigate some of those flooding concerns that we do have on 6th Street, right where it crosses over and goes into the storage unit place there. So yeah, we do have plans in order to mitigate some of those flooding issues on 6th Street. Okay,
so we've talked about a lot of those. One last project I want to talk about before we talk about volunteer opportunities is I've received at least one complaint about our parking lots. Why would the city spend money on preserving our parking lots, David? Why bother?
I think what a lot of people don't understand is, that our parking lots are actually public parking lots. They serve the public. They're not just the city parking lots. So when we went through and we did our parking lot maintenance program as part of our payment pres, we did all public parking. We were able to get Riverfront Park, Little League, all the public parking in Old Town. So we were able, to do that. And I think it's just as important to, protect those assets as they are the roadway. One of the things that's a kind of a misnomer is the abuse that parking lots take. On a conventional roadway, going, up and down the road, you don't put a whole lot of wear and tear as far as the tires onto the surface. Now in a parking lot, there's a lot of point turning. So it actually kind of digs it up, and a lot of times you're in a parking lot and you'll see all this kind of like sand all over the place. So, it is very important that we protect those parking lots because they are part of our infrastructure.
So I think that was a good point, is that we really concentrated on our public parking spots where the public use. If you want to know what an untaken care of parking lot looks like, come behind City Hall, behind my office back there. That is mostly city staff parking back there.
Right.
We did not do any preservation on that for two reasons. One is it's mostly staff parking. The second is it's probably beyond saving. And we hope to do a larger parking project behind the new brewery, the Belfry Brewery going in there, and creating better parking for the park that is back there for our Thursday afternoons. Music and farmers markets once we get to have large groups again. So very excited about that. So as we wrap up, if I wanted to volunteer, if I wanted to help keep our roads clean, there's Adopt a Road programs. We also are always looking for volunteers to help take care of the jail trail and other places. Is there a number or is there a place that they can look up and call David, and how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an Adopt a Street program. You can call the Public Works Department. That number is 928-634-8033. You call. It's basically a volunteer program. You'll have to sit with me through a little bit of a safety protocol. It's nothing too bad, but it takes about a half an hour. A little bit of paperwork, volunteer forms. What we do is, we get you out there and we get you cleaning up the roadways. We provide the safety vests, the grabbers, the trash grabbers. We want, the people who are picking up the roads, we want them safe. We provide the trash bags. You leave the trash bags on the side of the road and the streets department will come by and we'll pick them up. So
awesome. Well, I think it's a great program. We appreciate all the help we can get. So before we say goodbye, Kirsten, you've been through this several times now, but I always ask a question. So I'm going to give him a minute, David, a minute to think about, but let's talk about how you help inspire a vibrant community. What does that mean to you, and what do you think of Cottonwood and what the city can do to inspire?
Well, my role in inspiring a vibrant community is managing the financials. So I make sure that we budget and that we are being fiscally responsible and spending our money how we are supposed to spend the money. That's how
she does a good job, folks.
I say no a lot.
just in case you're curious, she knows how to say no quite a bit. And Kirsten, you've won a few awards over the last several years. You've been doing this 20 years?
I've been with the city for almost 20 years, and we've won a Distinguished Budget Award for every year that I've been here and before I got here when Jesus Rodriguez was also the finance director for a long time, and he won the award for a couple years too. And then we also win awards every year for our CAFR, which is our comprehensive annual financial report. And that's just a basic overview of all of our finances, and we turn that in every year and win an award for that.
Well, I think that's a good job. And Kirsten, not to get too personal with you, you also raised your family here and continue to live, and your family continues to give back to the city of Cottonwood. So thank you.
4 kids all still live here, all still work here.
Cottonwood's a great place for that. So David, for you, what does inspiring a vibrant community mean, and how do you help?
You know, I think it's an easy question, obviously, because the work that I do in Public Works, you can see. You know, anytime, you know, maybe that it rains, you know, and you get a call, we're out there, we're cleaning up those ditches, or we're fixing those potholes. So I think it's easy for me to answer that question, only due to you can see what we're doing. You can see the projects that we're completing.
Right.
So.
And then also you've given back. You've been in the community a few years, and you give back quite a bit to the city of Cottonwood. Yes,
you know, I've been in the city since I was a young kid. Moved here in 97. Me and my wife decided to, you know, obviously stay here and raise our 2 kids. You know, Cottonwood's a great family-friendly community. I do give back. You know, I coach a lot of different sports. Most recently, right now, I'm coaching youth football for my son. So yeah, we're very active in the community.
Well, I can't say thank you enough for both your roles in the organization. I think we have a beautiful community, and I think you both are partly responsible for that and leading the teams that make it happen, and then giving back as a person, as a volunteer, as a parent, as a family member to our community. So thank you from the City of Cottonwood. And that will wrap up this edition of Inside Cottonwood. Again, I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager.